don't know what your footprint is. So maybe if you want to just give a little background on that, it would be great. And then we're going to talk about Alan's, the big three issues that he's focused on right now, and he'll cover those and maybe one at a time. So then you can ask questions about that particular thing, and then we'll move on to the next subject. So with that, I'll shut up and let Alan talk.
Thank you, Martha. So good to see you. So everyone, I know from Martha that you all are very educated and about the food system and nutrition, and that you're engaged in the transformation of the system and at least your own family's health and your own health. So I wanted to talk about strategy and how strategy connects with change in the food system. So Natural Grocers, as Martha asked me to say, we have 170 some stores across 21 states west of the Mississippi. There always are a lot of people who say, what? I've never heard of them, but that's not uncommon. These are small, dedicated, purist health food stores. And we don't brag maybe as much as we should. A family started it in 1955. They still come in every day and run it, or at least the second generation and third generation. And the one thing I want you to remember if you hear Natural Grocers is, oh, that's the company that is a nutrition education company masquerading as a supermarket. And what I mean by that is we spend tens of millions of dollars making sure our customers are empowered to make their own best decisions about what food is good for them, which is really important. That means a full-time nutritionist in every store providing free services, science library, publications, trained employees. So if you walk in the door, you're welcomed, you're honored, and we know that you have specific needs, as opposed to showing you where the Doritos and Cheetos aisle are across from the Pepsi. I think you get the idea. So we are a science-based company, but science without ethics is pretty worthless. So what we do is we look at the supply chain, look at human nutrition, and we're looking for the best possible ways to deliver the best possible food to our customers. And of course, the best food in the world is worthless if our customers can't afford it. So I gotta take a moment to kick a company like Whole Foods in the shins, because they don't care about price. They don't care at the moment about nutrition either. But we strive to cut out all of the costs we can so that our food is as affordable as possible. We're publicly traded. We have the minimal 1% profit at the end of the year, which is mostly used to open new stores. It's an interesting model. So what do? I'm going to give you a case study at the end of my little speech here, and then I'll wait and pause and ask for questions. What we do is we say, okay, we want to sell meat. We want to sell the best possible nutritious meat. We don't want to have antibiotics used, especially medically important antibiotics. We don't want the animals to suffer. We don't want them fed GMO grain, et cetera, et cetera. We'll go through some of those in a little more detail. And in order to do that, we've got to go into the supply chain and find people that share our ethics and are able to meet a particular standard. In this case, it's the American grass-fed standard, which is 100% grass-fed for cattle, no antibiotic use at all, and the cattle are always on pasture. They're never stuck in a dry lot or in a feed lot. They're never fed grain. If you do this right, they don't need antibiotics. So again, we're looking at the best possible food. We go to the supply chain and we find a group of ranchers that are willing to do this particular method and use these particular standards. Then the problem is, okay, so they're willing and able to do it, but how do we create the demand so that they don't end up growing a bunch of very expensive cattle and packaging a bunch of very expensive meat that nobody buys. This is the most common problem. You can make the best stuff ever, but it's so expensive that there are no customers for it. So the education piece kicks in. We educate our customers about the standards, about GMOs, about patent issues, about biodiversity, about community vitality, about heavy metal contaminants, about monocultures, about rural economic welfare, all of these things that are so important to the survival of our country and the health of our planet. Once our customers get aware of that, and that's through talking to them, showing them very carefully crafted videos, by providing handouts, then they're thinking, okay, so what does this special super duper meat cost? And a super duper 100% grass-fed, no antibiotic meat, if it's actually done that way and it's not fake, is about $7.50, $8 a pound for hamburger. Now it's a little different now because Costco's standard price for hamburger is $6 a pound for junk. But before COVID, hamburger was $1.99 a pound. And yet we developed the consumer demand for $8 a pound, 100% grass-fed, no antibiotic hamburger. And by setting that standard and organizing our customers to support it, we developed with Thousand Hills in Minnesota 80 ranches that were meeting this production standard, and we could buy every pound of hamburger that they could produce because our customers were focused on it. That supply chain survived COVID. We never missed a delivery because part of doing agriculture right is having a diversified, resilient system so that it'll take weather events, it'll take shipping disruptions, it'll take an epidemic, and the whole system still works because it's fundamentally sound. The key issue here, which is why we're so different than every other grocer, is when we set that standard for grass-fed beef at 100% no antibiotics, always on grass, 100% grass-fed, that's the only beef we sell. Everyone else will stack it. Here's imported junk from Paraguay. Here's fake organic. Here's family raised, old McDonald's beef. And there aren't really any standards. It's really feedlot beef, that GMO grain, lots of antibiotics because the animals are sick in the feedlots and because antibiotics tend to increase the growth rate. We don't sell any of that. So now we've created this cycle, this wheel of virtue or wheel of change, where we have ranchers that can do better and increase that standard or strengthen the standard because our customers understand what goes into it and why it's worth more. Now I'm going to give you the quick case study on that so you understand. This is Thousand Hills, 80 ranches in central Minnesota. It's the most degraded soil you can imagine. It's very hilly and wet, and all of the topsoil has gone down to the bottom of the hill, and you'll see fence posts that stick out about 4 inches above the ground because that's where all the topsoil went in the last 80 years. So that is recovering. The soil's recovering. The nutrient density of the grass is recovering. The cattle are rotated very quickly. Farmers now getting what they're getting when we have this program in place, they can afford better equipment, better practices. They can keep their farm. They can plan for succession. They can send their kids to college. God forbid, they can afford health care. All of the things that create a resilient and vital rural economy and rural society. That's what we're selling to our customers at $8 a pound for ground beef. And this is why I get so, I'm not sure what Martha would call it, but I'd say pumped up about the issue. And I'm so proud to represent Natural Grocers because we've actually made this happen and we continue to make it happen. I'm gonna pause for questions, but my parting shot here on Thousand Hills and our cycle of improved standards is that I get to travel across the country my boots are in the dirt. I'm talking to farmers, small towns, community leaders, summits on rural grocery, on population shifts, on family farming. The change is happening across the country. And I've never found that proverbial dumb country hick who's out to destroy America that I keep hearing about. And they're talking to me and they're like, well, you don't sound like that arrogant urban urban liberal who's out to destroy rural America. And in fact, there's so little urban-rural divide and so little left-right divide on the food issue that it's just amazing that people, somebody out there has created this fictitious divide. Because part of what we're here healing is emotional and political stress, right? So let me park that there and open it up to questions. I obviously went through that quickly for a reason, but hopefully I didn't miss anything for you guys.
Paula?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for this, and deeply, 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 deeply appreciate it. I hope you're not the only one that is doing it. I just have a question. I'm a member. I don't have Costco, but we have Sam's Club. And during the COVID, there was a supply with organic 100% beef in a green package. I don't know if it was you guys or somebody else, but now that it was located next to the Angus beef, so-called, and this is what I was buying. It was a little bit more expensive than the Angus beef, but not so much. And then next to this is Bill Gates' fake burgers. So at the moment, Bill Gates' fake burgers are there. Nobody's buying those, of course. The grass-fed disappeared, and next to it, the Angus beef is there. So I went to the manager and I asked him, can you please continue this good thing to have those 100% grass-fed beef? Because they were delicious, and I'm looking for stuff like this, and it's really, really hard to find it. I go all over the place in every single store that I can. And honestly, I buy lamb from Australia. I buy my beef from Europe and Eastern Europe and South Europe as well. And I avoid to buy any beef here because there is no grass-fed 100%, like you're saying.
So let me respond real quick that the American grass-fed logo is the one you really want to look for. They're based in Denver. They're good friends of mine. I've been on many of their ranches. I'm not saying it's easy to find, but when you see that, it's a green logo with 3 blades of grass in the middle. That is very trustworthy. The problem with the organic at Costco, in Sam's, and Walmart, and Target, and Kroger stores is it typically comes from Uruguay. And there's a problem with importing beef when our American grass-fed producers are desperate to make ends meet. This conspiracy among the big retailers to kill off small farms in the United States is a real thing. And you have to look at the country of origin on these products. And if you really want to be Inspector Clouseau, there is a facility number on there. It's usually 6 digits, which you can look up. That's the processing plant that handled that beef. That'll tell you whether it was, where it was, and whether it was JBS, Cargill, Tyson, Purdue, and one of the big plants that you really want to stay away from.
Absolutely, and I do check the country for every single product, but the big box stores, they are trying to avoid this, and they're kind of very very weak on saying where it's coming from. It's all over the place, and they mention a couple of countries. So they try
Yeah,
to
that's
trick
true.
us every time with so many stuff. Yeah.
Remember, I said that we only have one standard, and we don't have a bunch of lower standards. The problem with challenging Costco on their ground beef, or sorry, let me restate that. The problem with a retailer bringing in higher quality food across any department is it causes consumers to think, well, if this is best quality, what's this other stuff you're selling and why are you selling it? So the retailers are really, they've backed themselves into a corner where they can't tell the truth without being deeply embarrassed, especially now when they're absolutely looting the country with these high meat prices that make no sense because the ranchers aren't getting any more. So it's but what you're seeing is absolutely true.
Yeah. So basically, you are the company online only. Is this?
That looks like us. It's blue and green and orange. That's usually us.
Grass-fed beef. So the companies. I'm sorry.
I wish you would, since I moved away, I wish you would have online shopping so I could have my stuff delivered from Natural Grocers. But
Well, you're making a good point. Most of the real good grass-fed producers will ship direct. And let me give you the real quick speech. This looks really expensive, but when you have good quality beef, whether that's a muscle cut or ground beef, your body responds to it differently. It tastes better, it's more nutritious, and you're more satisfied quickly. So what we remind customers is, so you're paying $8 a pound for ground beef, but that should be dinner for 4 people. And because you really, you know, that's 4 ounces in a dinner, and you only need that 3 times a week. The best way to cut your meat cost in half is to eat half as much, but eat better, right? And I'm being completely serious. We support all diets. We have vegans we support, but also carnivore diets. But it has to be good quality for all of that to work.
yeah, so one of the things I mentioned, I think before you popped on, Alan, is I have an article coming out in West and Price Wise Traditions Journal this quarter. And the overarching theme of it is hidden glyphosate, but related to loss of structure in cabbage in the research we did with Don Huber. But that also plays into the health quality of beef and poultry that are being fed the GMO feed, because the bones don't, I mean, that you can't get the same collagen in the beef stock or the chicken stock or the and you know, it's not just the collagen, it's the whole tissue of the animal's body, you know, if they're being fed this feedlot stuff. So
for everyone that's on, the funny thing with me and Marka, we have day-long conversations sometime, and we end up doubling down on the doom and gloom. So now's my turn, Martha.
yeah.
Were there any more questions, interim questions before I move to this next topic?
Yes, I think
yeah.
Jen has a question and Elizabeth has a question.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to move to synthetic biology, and this is real gloomy stuff. So let's hear the questions first.
I can wait. I can wait till later. That's okay. I want to hear the whole.
Elizabeth, what's your question?
Yes. Well, my question is related to the chain of freezing with this beef that either comes from other countries or that it's shipped. I used to buy New Zealand lamb frozen, and I loved it, and my body loved it. But sometimes something happens to it, and I have a reaction. And my thinking is that it was not properly frozen throughout the whole process. And I was wondering if you have any thoughts on how that works.
Well, my first thought, of course, is to be a smartass and tell you that there is beautiful lamb being raised in every state of the United States, and bringing in meat from 7,000 miles away was never a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But those big retailers love to buy it cheap in New Zealand and Australia and sell it for a lot up here. But again, I would go back to, I'm going to answer your question eventually. I would go back to looking for a local supplier who's raising lamb, especially look for lamb that are raised underneath solar installations. That's in Missouri and Kansas and down in Georgia, and they'll ship it to you and for about the same price. It'll be beautiful. But yeah, 7,000 miles, it's on a container. What happened during COVID, which is part of the other question, was that the whole shipping system shut down. You had products sitting in containers that were supposedly kept frozen or cool for months longer than they were supposed to be in transit. And we have enforcement, but how do you enforce temperature controls on I think it's 100 million containers of food that are moving back and forth across just the Pacific? It's this crazy amount of food. You can inspect it, you can put rules in place, but it's just a bad idea. It's unnecessary, and it's the waste of resources. When you tell me something went wrong with that beef, I'm unfortunately or that lamb, I'm just not surprised. But there's so much great food in the country if we can just get it to the people that want it.
Yeah. Well, now I have a follow-up to that question. I do buy all my meat. I'm in Mexico, and I do buy all my meat from farmers around where I am. Free-range cattle and lamb and all that. And then my concern is about parasites that animals can have when they're just free-ranging and drinking water from rivers and creeks and all that. And I don't really have a question, but
I can give you a complicated answer, which is if you're properly grazing animals, you're going to grow really dense grass or good quality grass. It may not be dense. Those animals be on there from 6 hours to 6 days, and then you move them on. But what immediately follows is the chickens, which eat all of the parasites and the bugs. Then the dung beetles disperse the manure, and then the goats come through and eat the weeds. So there are historic indigenous ways to control parasites in grazing animals. And when this is done right, grass-fed is so much better. It's a valid concern, and sometimes you want to cook that meat to a particular temperature, and maybe not how you like it, but how, a little hotter than usual. But when you put an animal knee deep in its own manure with 400 other animals in a pen, and they're so sick and they're getting antibiotics, and the flies are everywhere, and they're 100 feet from a fetid manure lagoon, the things you see in a U.S. conventional industrial slaughterhouse are startling.
Horrendous,
and 100 years ago, Upton Sinclair wrote that book. Someone will have to remind me the title.
Jungle,
of course,
the jungle.
The jungle, and those things still happen now. And my big effort is to get smaller local slaughterhouses in place. Animals are not stressed. They come in, it's clean, it's local people in the community slaughtering and processing the animals, and they're proud of that product. They know where the animals came from. So it's a big concern.
I can just comment a little bit on that, Elizabeth, because we have cattle here on our farm in Kentucky, and we do have to treat them for parasites. And what happens is it's typically coming off of winter, where you don't have as much grass. So as they're grazing, they're grazing down closer to the dirt. And so we'll start to see a difference. We can tell, with the grass and with the animals. And we actually have to treat our animals for parasites as a result of that. We don't sell ours to anybody else. It's just for our own consumption. But that was something I learned over the first 2 winters that we were here, is like, okay, and we had a very heavy drought year. And so the grass was not as, we just didn't have the dense, lush grass that we had previously. So it's a valid point for sure. And something if you're getting meat from local farmers, I would ask them about what their practices are. And, maybe, if they're close enough, you can go visit the farm and see what what kind of grazing lands they have.
Yeah, be careful about local. They still have to have an audited standard unless you really know them well. So I want to move on, and we'll to keep time open for questions, but let's take a balance here. What we've heard about is all of these bad practices and Martha's original concerns about contaminants in the food supply based on how things are grown and processed. And then I've spat it out, and you guys have, about there's a better way. There's a way that we can heal the soil, heal communities, keep animals happy, have cleaner and more nutritious food. And then we have synthetic biology that says all agriculture is bad. We're going to grow food in fermentation vats. And this is my big focus right now, is keeping synthetic biology from becoming normalized. And without belaboring the point, let me just tell you what it is in case you need a refresher. You take a microorganism, sometimes that's a pathogen like E. coli, which is in the Gates burgers, Impossible Foods. Sometimes it is a fungus, which is used in Perfect Day synthetic milk. Sometimes it's a bunch of other weird stuff in multiple steps, but they're gene editing or modifying, bioengineering that particular microorganism, and then they're feeding it a bunch of stuff in order for it to exude or excipiate some target compound. In the case of the Impossible Burger, it's a synthetically derived hemoglobin called lebhemoglobin that gives it that red meaty taste, which I can't stand, but that's what they're doing, and they're so proud of themselves. So the reason I wanted to focus on meat today and all of this is this paper, which you guys don't get to see. This is a pre-publication paper from HRI Labs, John Fagan, a friend of mine and Martha's, and he did a full analysis on the synthetic whey from Perfect Day that's being used in so-called vegan ice creams or non-animal ice creams and other dairy products. The long and the short of it is the materials that make up bovine milk are missing from these products, and there are 100 instances of mystery matter, unidentified molecular compounds that science has never identified, named, or studied for safety. And these are the things that are coming out of synthetic biology. That's bad enough, but remember that the fermentation step uses proteins and sugars derived from the cheapest possible, most destructive crops, which are GMO monoculture crops, which are fed synthetic nitrogen from fracked natural gas, and covered with synthetic pesticides from fossil fuels, desiccated with glyphosate or paraquat or diquat, and then harvested because that's the cheapest way to get those proteins and sugars for the ethanol plants, for the food supply chain, and now for synthetic biology. The amount of damage that an Impossible Burger does is astounding. And now in synthetic biology, they're also growing full-fledged meat analogs using all of these inputs that there's no justification for. We're so much better off growing animals in better ways that improve the planet and improve communities and general well-being. So we eat less and it's better for us. That's great. Making it cheaper because we're extracting and causing so much damage from the planet makes no sense. The paper calls out this mystery matter because the companies have gone to the FDA and said, we think these are safe, generally recognized as safe. We found some unexpected stuff, but don't worry your pretty little head about it. We don't think that they're a problem. So the FDA is allowing mystery matter into the supply chain, which is just astounding. So when you hear synthetic biology, it's going to save the world and it's sustainable and it's the future of food, just stop dead in your tracks, do a double take and ask some serious questions about it. All right, now I know I've got questions after that blurb.
Yeah, so Debbie Burnish has a question, and I think Mary, your hand's not up anymore, but you hand back up and I'll call on you if you're still here. Yeah. Okay. So Debbie. What happened to Debbie?
I'm right here.
Okay.
I'm here. So actually my comment was for Elizabeth on, I think she said like she was concerned about the parasites and stuff. So we have a house in Wyoming. And so it's right across the state from Idaho. And so we buy from Idaho ranchers and we get beef and they do the whole movement thing. And so the herds are moved constantly and they don't use any antibiotics, any pesticides or anything like that. In fact, they even had researched it down to the part where they found that if they move the herds, then the cattle were not swatting the flies with their tails, and that improved the quality of their beef. So that's point one. And then point two was that I found a company that has lamb out there. And so I grew up on a farm, very, very small. And so I just offhandedly said, you know, how many acres do you have for your lamb? And she started out saying they had 35,000 acres that they used, but then they also rented from the Bureau of Land Management and Forestry, and then it goes into hundreds of thousands of acres. And all of these, you know, out in Wyoming and Idaho, all these streams and all these, they're all pure and clean and beautiful. So it's not, you don't have to, I would say from those people, you don't have to even be concerned about that stuff. And then just one more ground beef comment. The ground beef that I buy from my Idaho farmer, it is maroon in color. It's not even red, it's maroon. It's got the fat flecks on it, and it's just incredible. It's just beautiful. So anyway, that's it.
So just to summarize, the parasites are transferred in the manure. And Debbie's talking about managed grazing. Those cattle are never standing in their own manure. They're moved forward. The flies and the parasites stay behind for other wildlife or other livestock to consume. In addition, when you are feeding animals on grass, cattle do not grow E. coli in a healthy rumen. E. coli is a result of a highly acidic digestive system, which is caused by grains, which animals are not designed to eat. So you are reducing the parasite load and you're virtually eliminating E. coli in a properly managed herd. The pharmaceutical companies hate this fact. They don't want to talk about it. They have all sorts of ways to distract you from that fact.
Jen. You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I might have an unstable connection here. There's a big lag. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, Alan, thank you so much for doing this and being here. I've been looking forward to your talk. I'm a nutrition coach, and my clients are always looking for ways to up-level, shopping, cooking. And I feel like I'm always asking them to make, more targeted decisions, and harder. It's getting harder and harder to shop. And so I'm in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and we're surrounded by pretty good stores, but we do have natural grocer envy here, just so you know. And I have to throw this in because I first heard of natural grocers when I was racing bicycles. And we have a national and international cycling event here. And you guys had a team. And every year we lived in fear of the natural grocer girls because they all trained at altitude. They must have been in the mountains somewhere, but
right. They trained at 10,000 feet up in Leadville. Yep.
Yep, that's right.
That's funny.
But I've shopped in the Phoenix area and in your Flagstaff store, which is so amazing. But you guys were one of the first ones to come out and say that you weren't going to carry produce with that edible coating, the appeal coating. And, and that kind of came out of left field, at least around here. It was just like, what is going on? We think we're buying organic. And it's just, again, it's just like feeling harder and harder to shop well. What are some other things that we need to be looking out for that maybe aren't in the general, or like even in our nutrition circles yet? There's
Do they put that
greenwashing.
appeal on organic produce?
It's allowed on organic. It's virtually it's been, nobody's using it that we know of. Okay. We banned it, and most producers aren't. I did a deep dive on that. I don't know if it's particularly a bad product. The company is made up of Synbio and GMO executives, and they won't speak honestly. So we don't have any patience for that. And our customers, for whatever reason, were like, don't have that. So it made the decision really easy. But what we do, one of those things I'd like you to take away is two things. We carefully curate our products, and that's not to keep them expensive. It's to keep them affordable and super clean. Is all non-GMO, of course, but that doesn't mean it's organic. So most of it is organic. And there's several hundred ingredients that we ban outright. So those don't even get considered for the shelves. The environment that we have in the stores, I think you'll confirm this, Jen, is that we're trying to take the fun out of shopping. You come into the store and your rational mind is turned on. What am I here for? What's my best food choice, nutrition choice for my family's circumstances, health-wise and otherwise? The opposite is what happens in other retailers. They're trying to let you indulge, whether it's my nemesis is the taco Fritos and donuts and all that stuff, and they want you to suspend belief that all food is good and healthy and spend whatever you want. Whole Foods is the worst. We specifically don't do that. We want people to stay rational throughout the store. And my not untrue story is that when you check out at Natural Grocers, you'll have an old school cashier, and she'll have her glasses on and she'll go like this. You could have made some better choices here. And when the employees find each other shopping, we do that to each other half as a joke, but it's also true, right? It's like, this is the moment where your health starts, is what you're buying and eating. So that's why we try to do that. You don't have to read our labels. You know what our standards are. And yeah, you can make bad choices. You can get a natural Reese's or a peanut butter cup, or you can get a rice chip covered with delicious flavors and eat too many of them. I'm guilty of that. But for the most part, you're not getting stuff that will really damage your microbiome. that'll hurt your gut, that you'll regret eating, that'll make you feel bad, that'll make you tired. So we're aware of that, but we're also all human beings getting through the day and the week, right?
Yeah. Well, that must be a relief to walk into a store where it's just that easy to.
We have some
I
loyal
would appreciate
customers,
that.
but it takes education. It takes a long time to build up a customer base that believes in nutrition. Yeah, I think you
And
know
that
this
is
better
not
than anyone.
looking for the junk food.
Yeah.
Like, so the way I shopped when I lived in Denver was I would go to Natural Grocers first and make sure, like, okay, this is what I need to cook what I'm doing, you know, and then if there was something I couldn't find there, then I would go, you know, to the next place that shall not be named on my list. But sometimes I had to go there. So, anyway, I think Mary's got a question.
Oh, hi, Alan. Nice to meet you. I'm a former Thousand Hills producer.
Wow. I hope you
Yeah.
agree with what I just said.
Yeah, I'm checking on you. You're doing good.
Okay.
First of all, Thousand Hills does have very good standards. We were doing it about 10, 15 years ago.
I see.
Before, and we live in Wisconsin. We're driving back from Cannon Falls, Minnesota, where it's made. I've seen where the meat is processed. It's all high quality all the way through, and as we came back after first going, okay, we're going to do this, it was like we drive through the countryside and it was like no one is doing what we're doing. So as far as consumers go, for educating, you can go to the Thousand Hills website, cattle company website, and look at the producer protocol, and you can see all the standards they have, and you'll go, I want that meat. And or you can, if you really want to check out locally, every county would have pasture walks in the summer. Go put your feet on a farm and see how those cattle are produced. As far as Debbie, you were saying the quality of the meat that you have, and it's a maroon color. It will be a maroon color with a good fat in it. We tested our feed every winter and had it sent to the labs and got the minerals and the vitamins that were missing. So our meat, when we had it processed, when you open up the wrapper, smell the meat. You will smell freshness. And it's like, and there's other ones that say they're grass-fed. If you're not smelling that freshness.
If you open a hamburger at Costco, because Martha and I did this once, it smells like manure.
Oh,
It just, and when you first do that and you realize it smells like manure, it's the last time you'll do that. For those of you that might try some really good grass-fed meat soon, there's an anomaly, which is it doesn't turn brown when you cook it.
No, it doesn't. It stays
Because the
pink.
grains that are fed in the feedlots produce a particular enzyme in grain-fed meat, and that's what's turning the meat brown as you raise the temperature. So you really have to, you got to, if it's the first time and it's expensive cut, do a little test. You want to sear the outside and then stop. You'll never get a darker inside, even though it's properly cooked. So use a thermometer and cook it as little as possible. Right, Mary?
right. 145 about. So anyway, thanks for what you're doing.
Thank
it's
you.
Great that that's great that we're educating ourselves. What you're saying is true. We certainly, as a producer, we certainly came upon the cheap meat people. You know, you're not going to get the quality. The knowledge is starting to be out there, has been. But we need to be pay our farmers a living wage too. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I think you know this more than anything when I talk about rural vitality. If you're going to eat cheap and ruin the countryside and have a agricultural colony like Iowa, where nobody's left, nobody's staying, nobody can stand to live there, that's a pretty big choice to make for your country, right?
Right.
All right,
I mean,
sorry for my speech. I get passionate.
Yeah. Okay, I'll quit talking.
Okay, Debbie's got another comment or question.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Alan for saying that about the color of the beef, because we did a meatloaf on cedar planks on the big green egg, and we had invited people over. And my husband, so it was
I'm sorry.
it was so red, and he's like, he was afraid to serve it. We have pictures of it and everything, and he just kept cooking it because it wasn't turning brown, and he was afraid of killing everybody, with not food poisoning, but for undercooked meat. And so anyway, it was hilarious because all the neighbors were like raving about how incredible this meatloaf was on the cedar plank and everything. And my husband had cooked it to death because it never turned brown. So I just wanted to share that. So.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add on top of that gets really fun is the grass that the animal was finished on in the last 6 weeks will change the flavor of that beef. And it's like fine wine. You can, down in the seagrass in Georgia, if an animal's finished on that grass, you will taste lemon and Parmesan, and I'm not kidding, in a bite of beef. So now you have a whole different thing than the standard corn-fed beef that most of us were raised on. It's fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, so my son-in-law got a huge elk in Colorado 2 weeks ago, and he brought me some of it. So I haven't had it yet, but he did this little TikTok video or whatever for my daughter, because he's always teasing her, and he said, like, he's sitting there eating his elk tenderloin, and he said, "This is more organic than anything you've ever eaten."
It's true. It's true.
So I think
This has been
Paula
really
has
fun.
another
I think,
question.
Toby,
We have one
you have
more
your
question
hand
from
up?
Paula, and then I think we can. I
Well,
know you've got to get home, so we don't want to keep you too long there. But Paula,
I'm looking for organ meats.
we can't hear you. You're too far. We can hear your dog, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, my problem is always to find organ meat. And I see that you make some, you have oxtail, which I love. You have
liver. Yep.
liver.
Where are you located?
I'm located Lafayette, Indiana, but those things are not in my store. I mean, there are 2 stores that sells your stuff, and I buy obviously the burgers and everything that is more regular. I haven't seen those chicks or towel.
I think it's gotten actually harder to get organ meat because there are so many supplement companies. I'm curious what you think about this, Alan, because there's so many companies now selling grass-fed organ supplements. And, I've just kind of said to myself, there's not that many grass-fed beef that are fully grass-fed for
They're
all
making
of
that
those.
up.
Yeah, they're making it up.
Even call people
Ancient
and ask them
nutrition is
about
guilty of
organ
that.
meats, but they don't want to sell it. And they are afraid to sell brain. They're afraid to sell, I don't know, they don't sell the heart. I really want organic, but I cannot find anywhere.
So, Toby, I don't want to send you off to a competitor, but I don't have a store anywhere near you. But check out White Oak Pastures. They sell every part of the animal, including the hide. They have their own processing plant, impeccable safety. They'll ship those organ meats to you, and you'll be really happy.
Would you repeat again?
White oak pastures.
White oak pastures, but they're, yeah, I know them, but they're not grass-fed.
They're in Georgia. You mean the cattle's not grass-fed?
Yeah, the cows are not grass-fed.
I know Will's not organic. I'm gonna plead innocent on this. I'm not sure. But
They're not, they
if he's
have,
finishing on grain, I'd be surprised. But
yeah,
okay.
they're feeding grain. I actually went to visit them. They are like everything bad that you can think of. They're feeding the cattle with grain, and I asked actually, you have such a nice pastures. Why the cows are not outside grazing on those pastures? But the guy never answered this question.
So I don't want to be apologist for him, except he's got that 1,500 acres that was destroyed by GMO agriculture. He's bringing it back with organic practices. I think he's trying to restore the soil so the cattle can actually have grass out there. But I'll talk to Will and bust his chops for you. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
You could have some grass fed for the people that want it. And I trust you. I haven't been down there yet, but it's typical of Martha's, inner circle like you guys to know more than me. I like that a lot.
This is well, I tried to warn him that it's a very educated group that has a lot of different background, but no, does a lot of homework and really knows their stuff. We got one question from Norma Jean, and then we can let you go, Alan, because I know you've got a long drive home.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, great talk. Paula, I just looked on their website and they do say they're grass fed and grass finished. Because I buy a lot I'm in South Carolina, so I do buy a lot.
Is it oak?
White oak pastures.
White
Is
oak.
that Will? What's his?
Bluffton, Georgia. Will Harris,
Yeah.
Bluffton, Georgia.
White oak pastures.
He was a president of the American Grass Fed Board, which means he is a full-fledged grass-fed producer. But Toby, he may have a separate herd, so I'm not saying you're wrong. But and feeding hogs might look different, but he's a good man. He's got a movie. He's got a book. He speaks from the heart, and he knows his potatoes.
Yeah, it's whiteoakpastures.com, and I
Yeah,
believe you can order.
I see actually on the website, so maybe I'm mistaken. We have another oak. Maybe it's not white oak. Maybe I've been to some other
red oak or
And
something.
he'll sell you all the organ meats. I think that's
Yeah, this is absolutely, the pictures show the cows and everything. Wonderful.
And
Thank
what I
you.
like about Will is his daughter Jenny is basically running the whole place. He's just a figurehead on the boat at this point. He's so proud of her.
Fantastic.
yeah, and
Thank you.
Paula, I just would encourage you to dig back in the inner circle because we had Jenny on as a speaker. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, but I know exactly where she lives and how she raises the cows. I don't like this way.
And then one of our
There is no
members,
grass around in Florida, right? Is this the lady that you're talking about, or somebody else?
no,
Oh,
it was from White Oak in Georgia.
oh,
believe.
oh no, I haven't heard this. No.
Yeah.
I'm thinking there was another lady living in Florida, and because I was at the time there, I went to see, and I'm like, what? I don't think so. There is very
I'll put
little
together some more
cattle,
resources for all of you that I'll give to Martha so she can share with you.
Great.
And try to
Yeah.
choose some people geographically that I think you'll trust, and you can get these specialty like
Packages you
organ
can
meats
order.
from, and true grass fed.
That would be great. And that we can
Thank
send
you.
that out with our follow-up of the recorded call and gives people some resources.
Thank
Right.
you so much. You cannot, I appreciate you so much. I'm so afraid of what is going on with the meat on this planet, not only here, everywhere. and how they try to force us to eat this junk. So this is very, very disturbing. And I'm so glad that people like you exist. Thank you so much.
It
Me
gives me
too.
so much hope that we made this thing work for our meat program, and that people, once they understand it, they'll support it too. Yeah.
And I think we can, I mean, that's like one of the goals of, I belong to a group called Solari, and they have a whole, I'll see if I can pull down some of the resources in a PDF file and share those with you, because they have also different ways to support your local farmers, and how to rebuild your local food supply. I mean, one of the things that we learned when we started having cattle here is just looking at, I mean, the same thing happened with the grain storage. We used to have in America, every little community had their own grain storage. Every little community had their own meat processing. And this massive consolidation from Wall Street, came through and funded the consolidation, basically, of all of our grain supply, all of our meat supply, and just really clamped down on anybody who's local. And then they put in place all these regulations where you can't sell a piece of meat to somebody else if you slaughter it on your farm. I mean, Joel Salatin has a lot of information about that in some of his books and the work that he's done to sort of fight for the ability to do that. But anyway, I've learned a lot about what's going on. I've learned the most from Alan, but I've learned a lot from having a farm now. And I did learn that my hamburger doesn't get brown.
All right. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. It's been really great.
Hopefully you'll come back and see us again sometime.
Oh, I'd love to. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, so I think we still had, let me see. There were some hands still up. I don't, I might be able to answer them. I don't know, but it looks like the hands are not up. So if there are any questions, I can also funnel them to Alan, or, Mary, it looks like you have another question or a comment.
Just wondering when he'll have stores on the east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too, and I give him a
Funnel
I
that.
give him a
Funnel that. to him.
hard time, because I wish they would like set up a warehouse and do online ordering. There's I'm trying to think of the name of the company, because there's a company that does like distribution throughout the US, but I'm not sure that they have meat. I'll have to look at that. I think it's called Azure Standard. AZURE, Azure Standard. And they do a really detailed screen of all the products that they have as well.
I buy from Wild Pastures, but I have to say this, it's okay for hamburger and some stuff, but the steaks are nothing I'd want to repeat, unfortunately. Like
Well,
I buy
they
from
don't
them
have any,
too.
there's no fat in there, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to cook unless it's something you're going to slow cook, like, beef stew. Even I made beef stew the other day, and it was actually
it was
pretty
okay.
bad.
Well, so the grains are what put that marbled
I know.
fat on. So I was actually talking, I can't remember where it was recently, that I was talking to a grass-fed person who on his own farm does like a 30-day grain finish. Well, not just grain, but it's grass and grain, so that he does get some marbling. But all of his grain is non-GMO.
Yeah.
But still, that, that's where that marbling comes from.
I have a cousin actually who is a dairy farmer, and they also keep, a few meat cows and whatever. And they go through a lot of the same kind of stuff where they have everybody check for nutrition, and they do all that kind of stuff. And I've never bought from them, but I mean, I've been at their house and they've had, burgers or whatever on the grill, but I keep, they're 1,000 miles away from me, so it's only when I'm there.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think just, when I am doing the yogurt, and I have a flop, I wonder if it has to do with problems in whatever the dairy cow was eating that, I'm making I don't know. I just had 2 flops in a row of Rooterite yogurt, and I was like, it was kind of strange.
I know Dr. Davis has said that he thinks it depends on the time of year and what they're eating as to how it comes out. So I don't know. But I went for a long time and didn't have any flops, and then all of a sudden, and
yeah,
I
haven't had 2, and I thought that as I was thinking about it, because I have somebody who's going to come on here and talk to us about mycotoxins, but she's not available until December. And one of the things we were talking about is in the dairy cattle, they can be eating grass, but dairy cattle are often fed silage and a lot of other things to increase their milk production. And there's a lot of mycotoxins in what they're fed, and then those mycotoxins get into the milk. And so I was wondering if maybe, milk is maybe more inflammatory in the wintertime when they're being fed more of the silage and the other things that might have mycotoxins.
Well, I mean, theoretically, those grain, the silos where they're putting silage and whatever in,
right,
that you can ferment. God only knows what's in there being fermented.
Deb, it looks like Debbie had another question or comment.
I'm sorry, I'm all over this thing.
Okay.
So so I just want to make sure. So is Alan going to make a list of and get to you a list of some of the farmers? Because
he's gonna send a list of places where people could source online, so where they could have it shipped to them rather than, or which in some of those would be direct from a farmer.
Right.
I know Peterson Farm in Texas actually sells direct, and there's another one actually that's on my computer, I think. Here,
I just need a source for when we're in, because right now I'm in St. Louis and we're eating terrible food because we don't have a big freezer. And so I did haul a bunch of stuff in a Yeti cooler from Wyoming just to get good food here. And then the other thing is that Azure, Azure, has a Facebook group. And so I'm on that. And so I guess I just need to find out if they deliver into Missouri or into this area. But they've got some, from what I can see, they've got some really good products. I just don't know how widespread they are.
Yeah, I mean, they have a pretty good distribution network. So they distribute here in Lawrenceburg. So
okay.
I got to think they'd be somewhere near where you are, but
okay.
Elizabeth, looks like you have another question.
Yeah, just circling back to the beef and parasites issue. Does anybody know the temperature to kill most bacteria in beef? Or the method of cooking? I've tried a pressure cooker, and it's a definite way to get it turned into leather.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, is it 165 beef or ground beef? 165. Hold on, I'll get my temperature.
I think it is 165, but To kill parasites in meats, it's recommended to cook the meat to a safe internal temperature. Different meats have different safe temperatures, but generally, cooking meat to a temperature of 145 or higher will kill parasites like trichinella.
Yeah, that's medium rare is 145. And then, so yeah, it's all different. Like pork is, you know, whatever it is.
I think it's like 160 maybe.
Yeah, it says
For pork, the recommended temperature is 160.
yeah.
Yeah, that, yeah.
And poultry.
For game
do
meat,
people-
let's see. For game meat, oh, I need this because I'm going to be eating
elk.
game meat, elk. Well, I thought it was going to tell me for game meat, but now let's see. It's not telling me. It had it in the.
And do people have any ideas on cooking methods to reach this temperature and not turn it into a piece of leather?
Well, what cut are you using? Are you doing ground beef or steak or?
No, never ground. It could be steak. It could be yeah. Let's say steak, or chopped beef. I chopped myself, or
How about sous vide, Elizabeth? Have you cooked with your sous vide?
that's very slow, and I don't remember I have histamine issues, so I don't want to cook slow.
Well, I usually beat the meat with hammer quite well.
That would probably
And-
kill the parasites.
Probably.
They'll get
So you
scared.
can beat it like until there are holes on the meat. And then it's your choice, whatever you want to do. The easiest way for me when I have too many people is to put it in the oven.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have an instant pot?
No,
Um,
I don't. I have pressure cooker and I have an oven that is electrical oven, and then the grills are gas.
Elizabeth, do you have
Yeah.
an instant pot?
No, I have a pressure cooker. And just yesterday, I was reading about the Instant Pot, which I have resisted, but I read that it's a good way to cook meat to,
Because I find in the instant pot, some of the less tender cuts of meat, if I have the recipe right, they will be nice and tender.
Mhm.
Aren't you afraid of the
So
plastic?
like a pot roast or something that you do in an instant pot, you can get it to where it's,
Yeah.
it's very tender. And I think you would most definitely have a temperature that would be addressing.
That can be measured. That's a good point. I actually buy tenderloin, which is very tender, but okay. But the point is not to make it tough from overcooking.
Okay, so a tenderloin,
Which
you're not going to want to put that in an instant pot. Like if I'm cooking a tenderloin, I typically like sear it in a stainless steel or cast iron pan, and then I will put my oven on like 400 degrees or 400, 425, and then stick it in there for 7 to 8 minutes and like check the temperature for if I want it medium rare or medium. But I usually cook mine to medium. So, and I think that's medium is 155 or 160? 155 maybe. Medium's like 155.
160.
Is it 160?
Also, if you do it like a steak, medium rare, and if you put it in the microwave for 1 minute.
I don't microwave.
No microwave.
No.
No.
So basically that will kill it. The question is what will kill it, but yeah.
Yeah.
What will kill it, but
Might
that's
kill
why
you.
it's difficult because there's so many
Might kill you.
factors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it looks like we have no other questions. Anything else anybody wants to cover? If not, we will wrap it up and I will get the list from Alan and, we'll get you some options on where to get good quality meat shipped to you.
And organ meat, please.
And organ meat. Yeah, that's really the tough one.
Yeah, I know.
And like bones. So there's actually a gentleman with Parkinson's that I talked to who did a very long-term fast. And it was I would say it was sort of a partial fast, but he went to a local butcher in Texas, and he had them save all the bone dust for him. Has anybody ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So, when they cut the meat, that it makes like a dust that has some meat mixed in with the
Bone.
bone. And he would get them to save him the bone dust. And sometimes they would just give it to him for free because they're just cleaning it up and throwing it away. But that bone dust has lots of minerals and typically a little more of the fat and stuff. And he would use the bone dust in making his broth.
Nice.
Well, I will give it to my dogs.
Which is very interesting. Okay, it says 2 great cookbooks for meat, Mary, but then there's no cookbooks there.
You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, now can I talk?
You can.
Okay. 2 great books for cooking meat. The author is Shannon Hayes, Shannon Hayes, Hayes. She's been a long time. The foreword is by Joel Salatin. She's one book is called The Farmer and the Grill. Farmer and Grill. Okay. And the other one is called Long Way on a Little. So it's every lower cost cut of meat and how to cook it.
Oh, great.
And they're really good. Really, really good. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're going to have to order those.
Yeah, you might have to order them from her farm.
Amazon.
Oh. Her website is grassfedcooking.com.
Great. Thank you so
Well,
much,
thank
Mary,
you.
for that.
That
That's
is
helpful.
well, and it's also like it's given me some idea because we took a cow. It was like 2 years ago. We took one of our cows to the local
Butcher?
butcher, and we're just now running out of meat. So, we had a huge freezer of meat. Our kids came and got meat. So my brother's family, my family, like everybody got some of that cow.
On one cow, yeah.
On one cow. So I think like people don't realize like, there's a lot you can get out of a cow. But that was the first time I had ever taken one and they give you a cut sheet and you have to tell them, this is how I want it cut. And like in retrospect now, I think there were some, like we did get the liver, but we didn't get the heart. So I think there were parts of the cow that we actually could have gotten if we had said, I want yeah, say this or, whatever.
One other thing as far as parts of a cow is the oxtail. Acupuncturist that we've gone to said make oxtail soup before any bone surgery, shoulder surgery, knee surgery, hip surgery, because the oxtail is so loaded with collagen.
Collagen.
Yeah, it becomes if it's in the fridge, it's gelatinous, and then we'll go.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, when we used to farm, there was a woman from Japan, and her daughter was pregnant, and she traveled hours to come get some of our oxtail for her daughter.
I love
So a lot of people would frown on the oxtail, but
I
has
love
lots of ben-
oxtail soup.
Yeah.
I watched, I think it was actually Hawaiian, this guy make oxtail soup. But one of the things that he mentioned that I had not done, but was that you need to like parboil it first and skim the foam off the top, because it will release any toxins that it has into that foam. And you scrape that off, and then you do the slow cooking.
Wow. I don't think mine had foam.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, just for in Wisconsin, another good source is called Wisconsin Grass-Fed Beef Cooperative.
Okay. They sell that at my co-op.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's great.
they sell retail. Look at their website, check out the producer protocol, see if it all matches what you want. I think it does. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay, that's all I got. That's all I got.
Great. Well, I think this was a really good call, a little bit different than our typical sugar related calls, but I know a lot of us are more low carb, and the more I look at the low carb and the carnivore, a large reason that helps so many people is that people have really, really damaged gut linings. And so, when you are eating the meats with the collagen, and the organ meats where you have more minerals, and I think I talked about this once before, hyaluronic acid, which is necessary for, making the collagen and making the gut lining and all these, very important to all these tissues in the body, is actually a fiber. And, people don't think about meat having fiber, but it actually does have fiber. So I'll close it out on that, and we will see you in 2 weeks with Dr. Geraldo Magarinas will be with us. He was supposed to be with us 2 weeks ago when I had to cancel. So he will be back in 2 weeks, and he's been working on some exciting stuff in like building out a company to do affordable toxin testing. So I think it will be interesting to hear what he's up to, and to have him share some things with us again. So we will see you. Oh, Mary's got a question.
Sorry. It only took me a few years to warm up to talking.
Yeah.
Would you know when Dr. Debbie Osment is coming? Maybe I'd like to get a bristle test done before she talks.
You know what? I will double check with her on dates. It's probably going to be in November, but I'll double check with her. And so, well, let me see. Yeah. So if you're going to do that, you probably want to go ahead and
Hurry up.
hurry
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, order them now because I have one that's been in process for.
Takes weeks.
It takes a month after they receive it to get your results.
Okay.
So-
I mean, I could probably make her in January or December if you, if that would be better for you, Mary.
Well, not just for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll get going on it. So
Okay.
thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
guys.
Martha. Bye.
Thanks.